Recording in progress.
It is 5 o'clock. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Land Use and Transportation Committee. We have committee members Linda Kochmar and Melissa Hamilton here. Also have Council President Susan Honda, and we're joined online by Council Member Lydia Sefadossan and Council Member Les Sessoms.
And it's June 1st.
And it is, the June 1st meeting. So we will go ahead and begin. The first item is public comment, and we have public comment from Mr. Mike Bullock-Ziegler. Go ahead.
Hello, committee members. My name is Mike Bullock-Ziegler. I'm a resident here in Federal Way. I attended last month's LUTC meeting, excited for the long list of pedestrian-focused improvements on the agenda to make our streets safer. It's work I care deeply about and was fortunate enough to participate with. I left that meeting feeling disgusted and demoralized after our chair interjected to quip that Darwinian theory over a few generations will solve the problem of people crossing the street not in a marked crosswalk. Putting it more plainly, suggesting that people running over and killing others with their vehicle over multiple generations is how you address that safety concern. It's something I can't fathom thinking in response to such a tragedy and reflects a gutter indifference to the lives of those walking in our streets. Every time I choose to ride my bike from Twin Lakes to the Federal Way Transit Center, I'm always fearful coming off of the BPA trail when I'm forced to merge in the single drive lane on South 324th behind the mall as you cross Pacific Highway. And you have to share the road with drivers who can't stand to slow down or be patient. The thoughts often go to, if I am struck or killed, will my family have to read comments such as cyclist's fault under that story? Now I will also have the thought of, how will my elected officials talk about my final moments, that maybe I deserved it? If my child is struck and killed crossing one of the intersections near Taft Sahali, that will see those safety improvements you all voted on, is that just natural selection? I read over the heartbreaking story of a mother, a spouse, and a caregiver that was struck and killed crossing 320th earlier this year. Was that a joke? The comment was offensive and embarrassing for our city, the city staff and residents who take this seriously, and those who have been impacted by traffic violence. I think a comment like that should be disqualifying for someone to hold elected office, let alone chair the city's primary transportation policymaking body. We deserve leadership who will take this seriously, and by letting that comment go unaddressed, this committee has lost any trust that I had.
Thank you. I will going to take the liberty to address that. The comment that I made was done, I hope that you know, not in seriousness, but however, it was not, I have publicly apologized for it. It was not appropriate, and you know, a number of years ago, I had a dear friend who lost his wife to a pedestrian accident. She was not in a crosswalk, and she was not crossing as she should have been. However, it is obviously not something that should be joked about, and I do apologize once again for that offhand attempt at humor that was probably not appropriate for the occasion. I do want to let it be known that I take every accident with all seriousness. It remains that we do need to try to educate, or whatever needs to be done to help people cross in crosswalks rather than endangering their lives and basically ruining the life of another person who may not be at fault either. And so it is a serious matter. And so with that said, that's all I can say. So anyway, let's go on to, is there any other public comment?
No.
Okay, all right. Let's go on to committee business. Item A, approval of minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 It passes unanimously. All right, next, item B, authorization to bid City Hall main entrance ADA improvements. And Mr. John Cole.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Council President, Chair, Mr. Walsh, and other committee members. I'm here this evening for authorization to bid for, this is not the correct one, excuse me. Maybe. There we go.
No, that's what we're on, is item B, authorization to bid City Hall main entrance ADA improvements. That's the one we're on.
Okay. As we said, City Hall main entrance ADA improvements project, here for authorization to bid. Maybe. Policy question I have for you to this evening is, should City Council authorize staff to complete design and request bids for the City Hall main entrance ADA improvements project and return to the LUTC and Council for bid award, further reports, and authorization? Background information on this project. This project provides for ADA improvements in the front of City Hall, ADA ramps from the lower parking to the upper parking, and then the upper parking to 8th Avenue South. Supplement work, if budget allows, will be to replace the non-compliant sidewalk at the front door, the Starburst area, elevated crosswalks across lower and upper parking, and potentially repaving just the main entrance driveway. Currently, the project design is at approximately 85% complete, which includes the following: survey, project design to 85%, preliminary contract specifications. Ongoing tasks will include project design to 100% and contract specifications. Budget is as follows. Budget total project cost is approximately $350,000. Questions to consider this evening is, one, approve staff to complete the proposed design, request bids to the City Hall main entrance ADA improvements, and return to LUTC and Council for bid award, further reports, and authorization. Or option two, do not approve staff to proceed with this project, provide direction. Mayor recommends option number one. And as always, I'm available for questions if you have them.
All right, Councilmember Coachmar.
Thank you. Could you kind of describe what the ADA improvements are a little bit more? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Visually,
Currently, the front of City Hall, and I realize we kind of have two fronts, so I'm talking about the easterly facing in front of City Hall here. The Sunburst area, the sidewalk in front is not completely ADA compliant, and then there's no way to safely navigate up onto the curb and then into the upper parking as well.
You want to get rid of the curb and have, I'm sorry, you want to smooth out the curb and have a way for the
There'll be
wheelchair
a
to come
ramp,
up the
yes,
ramp.
ma'am. I actually
Oh,
kind
that's
of
helpful.
thought you might have some questions. So it'd be something similar to this, where there would be a few tree removals. We're not going to lose. One of the goals of this project was to not lose any parking spaces, so there's already a commodity out there. We would unfortunately lose a few trees in between the lower and upper, and the ramps would go out along the ivy green barrier and then back. They would also have a bypass stairwell. To bypass that, we would upgrade the lighting, and then we have ADA compliance. This, as you see here, would be the primary focus would be to get ramps between the lower and upper and 8th Avenue. And then as money allows, we would demo and reconstruct the sunburst area, the dyed area of the sidewalk in front of City Hall, in front of the door, making that compliant, and also add elevated crosswalk, which would also create a speed hump to slow people down through the parking lot between the front door sidewalk and this first section, and then the first section and second section. And then, again, as the wish list grows, would be to repave the main entrance here.
Thank you.
Council President.
Thank you. So looking at the map in the packet, and at this map, the ramp is going to go into where trees currently are and then come back out, and then do the same thing on the lower level?
Say that last part again?
So it's gonna go like this?
Yes, it'll go straight up just like it does now, and then hang a left out through the ivy and the trees, and then switch back and come back, and then continue on the current path that it is now.
So I agree that having difficulty walking. It is, if I was in a wheelchair, I would have a hard time getting up to the front door. I agree with that. Is there a reason why the sidewalks couldn't have just been widened instead of having a ramp that goes that way?
Yeah, the slope
slope is
is
too-
not, it's too great of a slope. That's why we would have to go out and come back to get the elevation gain. Basically, it's 8.3%, which accounts to 1 inch for every 12 inches. So for every foot, for every inch rise, you need to go out a foot.
Okay. Huh. So it makes me kind of question, the ramp at, this is off subject, but the ramp at the stairs at the PAC is pretty steep. Is that steeper than than this is?
I'm not familiar with that design. I came to the city right when we were starting construction on that, and so I couldn't tell you what the slope on that is.
That-
I assume that it's compliant.
That ramp is compliant.
It's compliant?
It is compliant, correct?
It is still pretty steep, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is ADA compliant.
All right. Well, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I've heard a lot of concerns about it.
Yeah, that one, I mean, we're making up a lot of distance.
Yeah.
Or height, sorry, not.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of distance to make up that elevation. So I don't think that ramp is actually that steep. I think that people are used to it. I think it's a little bit of an optical illusion when you're standing up at the top of the ramp and you're looking down at how low the street is comparatively. I agree with you. It feels steep. But I think when you actually start going down it, and we've heard the comments
Yeah.
too, it's not any steeper than other ramps in the city though. But
Okay.
I think it is 100% in agreement that there's an optical illusion that people feel that it is steep.
Okay. Well, anything that makes it safer for people who,
My wife and I went up and down on Saturday, and it's not that steep, it's just lengthy.
It is very
So,
lengthy,
Yeah, very
yeah.
lengthy.
There's
So,
also controls on how far, how much you can incline before you need a flat area. If you think about Safeco Field and the ramp going up,
Yeah.
every so
At
often
every
you need a
level,
flat.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay, I have one more question.
Go
So, the trees that are currently here, will they be removed so that people can see into the ramp so that, it's safe at night?
That's one reason. The other reason is for constructability.
Okay.
The first two large trees between the lower and the upper would have to go. They're much smaller in the upper section
Okay.
that would need to be removed.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
one question I have is with having ADA parking down below on this, oh, gee whiz, just knocked my. Yes, as a matter of fact.
It's one of those days, isn't it?
These flimsy cups are not,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we need to have good cups there to,
Yeah.
a small intermission here. a little more wipe up to do here, but
problem.
what I was asking about before I got too grandiose with my hand motions. Thank you. Thank you. Since you're so generous with that, no attorney jokes tonight. Empty the cup so it's not, okay. All right. Okay. What I was asking is with having ADA parking down on this lower level, why is it necessary to have,
Sure. Yeah, ADA parking spots never seem to be quite enough. If you ever commuted with someone with a parking pass, so this will provide accessibility to non-ADA compliance, but non-ADA parking spots that also need access.
okay.
Yeah, or even commuters going up to 8th Avenue where there's a sidewalk and whatnot.
That makes sense.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any, no further questions? Do we have, well, Lydia and Les, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I did raise my hand. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm not seeing it, so shout out
okay.
if I don't see it, okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I
Yes.
hear you loud and clear.
Great. Thank you so much. I just wanted to comment. It's not a question, but I think I'm glad this is being done because I could never walk up that steep driveway. So, and sometimes I've noticed we do run out of disabled parking spots when we have big events or more people come to City Hall. So I think it's necessary because it is steep for some of us. And so I just wanted to answer your question, Chair, that it is necessary. Although it's like a ramp, it's a steep ramp. So I'm glad this is happening. And my only question is, how long is it going to take once you start the process?
Yeah.
Or do you know?
So we hope to go out to bid this summer, and all things, fingers crossed, end of summer, late fall would be complete.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Councilmember Sessoms, any questions?
No, I have none.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
I move to forward the proposed City Hall main entrance ADA improvements project authorization to bid to the June 16th, 2026 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
It passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item C. Approve resolution adoption of the 2027 to 32 Transportation Improvement Program.
Good evening,
Mr. Rick Perez.
and hopefully I can get this thing going here. So, yes, so the policy question is, should the council authorize staff to proceed with the adoption of the 2027 to 2032 Transportation Improvement Program at the public hearing on June 16th? So, the Six-Year Transportation Improvement Plan is a plan for transportation-related capital projects that is updated annually. It is a requirement for grant eligibility. It must be financially constrained, meaning that at least for the first 3 years, we have to have a reasonable explanation of how we would fund these projects. They also need to conform to air quality requirements adopted by the region and adopted after a public hearing. So we have several different prioritization criteria. Some are directly related to traffic congestion. 3 are related to collision history, whether it's supportive of different modes of transportation, community support, air quality, ease of implementation, a benefit cost ratio calculation, and social equity. And this is the map showing the proposed projects. So the projects that are coming off compared to last year is the adaptive traffic control systems, phases 1, 2, and 3. We have a streetlight infill project that is completed, and the road diet on South 288th Street between Military Road and 34th Avenue South. We are not proposing any new projects this year. We have no impending concurrency problems. We have a pretty full plate already with the different projects that we have, including safety projects and non-motorized projects. And so we are not proposing any new ones. So options considered is to approve the resolution adopting the TIP as presented, or do not forward the draft document and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation is to forward option 1. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Council President.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick. On the map at the end of 320th and Hoyt Road,
Yes.
what is going to go in there? A roundabout?
So in an ideal world, I would say a roundabout, but because of the park property on the west side of the right-of-way there, we aren't going to be able to encroach upon that. Acquiring park property is particularly difficult, and so we are instead proposing a traffic signal there rather than having to purchase commercial property like the gas station on the northeast corner or Gravity Coffee on the southeast corner. So we're proposing a traffic signal there. It is not currently warranted. We're anticipating that it would be warranted within the coming years.
Is there a history of accidents there?
There is some. There was one serious injury collision a few years ago where somebody westbound on 320th did not stop and ended up in the wetland.
Oh. How about pedestrian accidents?
I'm not aware of any right there. We did have the one where we're putting in the rectangular rapid flashing beacon a couple blocks to the east.
Thank you.
So I see here it is quite a combination of city center access and corridor improvements and non-motorized improvements as well.
Yes.
Okay, right. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. I have just one quick question. I actually received some feedback, which is funny because we're talking about this, about I think it's probably going to fall under number 33 on the little map here that we have, the visual. And it's the 312 Steel Lake Park, 28th Avenue South, and it says, description, install sidewalk and streetlights on the south side.
Yes.
So the feedback that I got this week actually was that the crosswalk from the Steel Lake Annex side to Steel Lake, if you're going from the Annex to Steel Lake,
Yes.
once you cross the crosswalk, it kind of is like a crosswalk to nowhere.
Right.
That you either have to go through trees to get to the park or go down side and down a long driveway.
Yes.
Is there any plan for that?
Well, the comprehensive plan calls for sidewalks on both sides of 312. So eventually that would happen. Right now, this is just basically a continuation of the improvement that we did a few years ago on the south side to connect it up to 28th Avenue South. So long range, yes. Short term, as it is, we've been having difficulty getting funding to move forward with this particular project.
Okay. And maybe when we master plan Steel Lake Park, that we can solve that issue. But I just wanted to bring it up because it was a constituent comment that I got this week, and I just thought it was interesting because we were talking about it today. So I said, I'll bring it up.
Hey, Councilmember, are you talking about going into the park proper, or are you talking moving laterally along 312?
So there's a crosswalk. It's sort of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on the Steel Lake Annex side.
Yep.
And then once you cross to go to Steel Lake Park, it just kind of, you don't go anywhere.
Correct, but I guess the context of the comment, was it to continue into the park, or was it to?
Yes, it was to get into the park, and basically what they said was that, well, we walked through the trees, to get to the park.
No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And to your point, the master plan for Stilic Park is ongoing.
Yeah.
I know we've internally had a couple conversations on this topic of, does it make sense, exactly what you brought up, to try and get over to the driveway, or should there be a better, different pedestrian
yeah,
route through
maybe
the
even a
trees,
little
somewhere?
Gravel path or something. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood your comment
Okay.
correctly.
Yeah, thank you.
Council President.
Thank you. I have two more questions. At 312th and South 312th and 28th Avenue South, it says a right turn lane or construct a roundabout.
Yes,
So that's by the new maintenance center.
yes.
So if there's a roundabout there, which I think would be a good idea. I mean, I used to not support roundabouts, but now I love them. How would the big trucks going in and out of the maintenance yard navigate that?
Good question, and I don't have the answer right now. So we haven't advanced any particular design there. The other thing is the comprehensive plan calls for extending 312 across I-5. That is increasingly challenging because of Sound Transit, that we can't get enough elevation difference over the light rail right now with the current design. So, the jury's out on that one. I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. And it's number 32 Federal Way Transit Center pedestrian access improvements.
Yes.
What are those?
So there was a couple different options that we were exploring to use the same funding source that Sound Transit provided to put in the traffic signal at 21st South and 320th. They call it the Station Access Improvement Program. And so we had applied for this. It was conditionally approved, but the funding never came. But a couple of the options that we were looking at, and probably the most viable one. So we have the private streets in the vicinity, like, say, the north side of Mod Pizza and Red Lobster. And the idea was to create a public path that would connect 21st over to Piet van Rijkbauer Way along that private roadway.
Through
And
the
so,
through the parking lot?
yeah, well, essentially on the south side of that private road or the north side, depending on, we haven't designed anything yet. But the idea was to improve pedestrian connectivity, because I personally have walked it. There's no good place to walk. And so that would be a way to improve access to the station.
So has there been any discussion about the bus stop on the common side? That it's a little bit close to the crosswalk, but I've watched, a lot of people not use the crosswalk there.
Right.
Has there been any discussion about moving that bus station? Bus stop?
Yes. So there are a couple different things that we're looking at. And we did have a discussion with King County Metro on that stop location. One was to either move it closer to 23rd on what they call the near side, so that would be on the southwest corner, or move it to the southeast corner. We're going to be recommending that they move it to the northeast corner, or the southeast corner. Even though that's one additional pedestrian crossing, the transit agencies typically like what they call the far side stops. It's safer for the pedestrians, actually. The other thing we're looking at is to, because they like that location and they may want to go back to it, but on the interim, we would move it. But we may also, if they do want to go back to where the stop is right now, one of the reasons they like that stop location is because they don't have to provide a shelter, but the overhead tracks provide shelter. So a little bit of weather protection. So we're looking at the possibility of installing fence on that segment in the median between 21st and 23rd. and that could be incorporated into the preservation project that should be starting design here pretty soon. So that is already funded. So that's a couple different options that we're looking at and discussing with Metro to address that issue, because yes, there are a lot of people getting off the bus and running for the trains in a place that, I mean, they're crossing 8 lanes. It's not a good place to be crossing for anybody.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So you mentioned something, you said far side stops?
Yes.
What's meant by that?
So as the eastbound bus is approaching the intersection, the near side stop would be on the, right immediately before the intersection. Far side stop would be after the intersection, so downstream.
Okay.
So that would be, the far side stop would be the southeast corner, the near side stop would be the southwest corner.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Kochmar.
Whatever my name is. Well, I seem to remember just some discussion about the trail on the south side of the mall that would go around and come out by light rail and
Yes.
go across. Did that get bid, or what happened with that?
So that's currently under design. Yeah, that's project number 34 here on the map. So that is under design. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have right-of-way money for that now, too. That is correct. So, yeah, we'll be moving towards right-of-way acquisition and then construction funding whenever we can get it through the same program through PSRC that we're applying for this now.
And so how are we getting them across the 320th?
The trail would line up with that crosswalk across the west leg of the intersection at
That's the only way to
23rd.
get across there.
Right.
It's going to be a nightmare.
Well, it's still using the existing crosswalk across the west leg of the intersection at 23rd and 320th.
So there's still no way we can talk to Sound Transit about a overhead pass?
Yeah, they've been pretty opposed to that for their own reasons.
Money?
That's a big chunk of it. The other aspect is it would be the same level as the
Light rail?
where the station is, and that's a fair controlled area. So they do not want people just wandering up and wandering on the train without having gotten their pass or purchased a ticket.
Wow, thank you.
This is my last question, I promise.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. It's number 11 SR 509 at Southwest 301st Street
Yes,
roundabout. Is the roundabout, would it be on 509?
yes.
And the state's okay with that?
The state's actually, in order to construct a traffic signal on a state highway now, you have to prove that a roundabout won't work.
Oh. Do they give funding for the roundabout?
Well, that's one of the things we've been lobbying for in the legislative agenda, so.
All right.
So,
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Sefadossin and Sessoms, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right. You know, with the roundabouts, I agree with Councilmember Hunt. I quite like roundabouts. The biggest challenge is getting people to treat roundabouts the way they should be treated.
Yes.
And I mean, in this last week, I think there's been 3 or 4 times where I've come up behind somebody, they were going into a roundabout, no other cars there, and they came to a complete stop, which is great at a stop sign, but at a roundabout, the whole idea is to not need to make that stop.
Right.
And how to train people to use the roundabouts in the proper way, so.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, the state DOT, in fact, most state DOTs now have something on their websites that explain to people how to use a roundabout. I know it's in the driver's manual in Washington as well. How many people actually look at those is always, I'm equally frustrated by that. I've got 3 new roundabouts on my commute route, and I'm always tearing my hair out, which I don't have enough of left anyway, to see people stopping for nobody.
But we have identical problems there, so. All
Could I
right.
say one more thing? The roundabouts that I use frequently, the crosswalks the roundabouts here, the crosswalk is fairly far away.
Yep, setback.
That seems difficult for drivers to comprehend someone might be crossing the street there, even if in a crosswalk. And I'm talking about 330th.
Mm-hmm.
And I've almost been hit a few times. I mean, I don't go out unless I see the car actually stopping.
Right.
But some people assume that they're in the crosswalk and the cars are going to stop.
Yes.
But I would say as you're turning, if you're going around the roundabout, you don't really expect to see someone cross, unfortunately, and you're not watching for that.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, but the most important one is the design standards that have been developed. We're assuming that if people are coming up to the yield line at the crosswalk, they're busy looking only to the left for opposing vehicular traffic. And so they wanted to separate the space so that so that the driver is dealing with only one conflict at a time. So they should be looking for the pedestrians approaching the crosswalk and then looking for conflicting traffic that's already in the roundabout. That's the theory. And so whether it's ideal or not, I'm not quite sure. But that is the design standards that we're following. And, you know, if there gets to be too many conflicts, then we can always look at, you know, using the rectangular rapid flashing beacons on the approach, which is now a standard for all multi-lane roundabouts. So there's things we can do if there gets to be an issue that's ongoing to try and address that. Beyond that, there's actually signalized roundabouts, which you want to avoid, but they may come to a point where if there's that many conflicts, and in fact, I'm kind of digressing a little bit. Enchanted and 356th, so as part of the next phase of the Triangle Project, that intersection would become a 5-legged roundabout. And because the volumes are so high, that at least one of those approaches to that roundabout will probably be signalized. They call it a roundabout meter. And they may even need more than one at that one because the volumes are so high. But they don't want to make it a 3-lane roundabout because those don't have a very good track record for safety. In part, you need a much larger gap to enter, and so you're not really improving the capacity all that much. And the ones that have built in the U.S. so far do not have really good track records for safety.
Yeah. The Arc de Triomphe in Paris.
Well-
Boy, talk about a crazy roundabout, you know, just.
Yeah, that is not a modern roundabout. That is a very, and yes, it is absolute chaos. And there's a reason why all the pedestrian crossings are on the outside and are signalized. And the only way to get to the Arc de Triomphe is through a tunnel.
Yes. So, all right. Any further questions? All right. Do we have a motion?
I do, and I'll just comment real quick. As someone who's worked in the police department in the past, I can assure you the police are also trying to help people navigate roundabouts and teach people how to use them. So with that said, I move to forward the proposed resolution to the June 16th, 2026 council business agenda for approval.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
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 It passes unanimously. All right, item D, authorization to bid 2026 major asphalt patching contract. Ms. Desiree Winkler.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee, members of council. All right, let's get this thing started. All right. Yes, I am here seeking authorization to bid the 2026 major asphalt patching contract. Policy question, should City Council authorize bidding of the 2026 major asphalt patching contract? So some background, asphalt patching is one of our strategies that we use to extend the pavement life and minimize ongoing pothole repairs. We do have a need for some major patching on some arterials, including Warehouser Way, and I was just out there today marking it out. I don't think we'll get any further than that. We have received some additional revenue from the street vacation of 16th Avenue at Federal Way High School. 50% of the street vacation proceeds are required to be spent on street operations, of which this patching is perfect for. So our proposed expenditures is that we would be utilizing our existing staff that are already funded to do design and construction management inspection. Construction would be about $175,000. With the street vacation proceeds, that 50% that came into street operations at $173,853, for a total proposed project cost of $195,000. And option one is to authorize bidding the 2026 major asphalt patching contract, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council President.
I just have a question on the funding. You said that proceeds from the street vacations, half of it is required to be spent on street operations?
Yes.
Is that a city thing or?
That is a city ordinance.
No,
It's also an
state law.
RCW. Yeah.
It's what?
State law.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
All right. I can now see Councilmember Cefados and Councilmember Sessoms, and I don't see either one of them with their hands up, so, all right,
No, thank you.
okay, all right. And I don't have any questions either, so, do we have a motion?
I move to forward the authorization to bid the 2026 major asphalt patching contract to the June 16th, 2026 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Desiree. All right, next, item E, update on SCA Airport SAMP Sustainable Master Plan SEPA process. That's a mouthful. And Mr. Belvedino.
Stand by.
And I understand we're going to get a further update tomorrow from the port,
We are.
correct?
We are. Oh, no, we
So
can't find here it is. Here we go.
will we be covering much tonight that won't be like, that will,
This is more our version,
okay, all right.
and this is very erudite, so. So, Chair Walsh, committee members, council members, this is just a brief summary. I think this is 7 years in a row for me talking about this, because the SAMP and the NEPA and SEPA has been going on for that long, delayed for various reasons, including COVID, but now we're sort of in the final 2 laps of the situation. So now let me move my picture out of here. So basically, as you all know, because we've been keeping you in touch, the comment period's begun. It's the 60-minute comment period on now the state SEPA Environmental Protection Act portion of this. It's going to end on July 20th. And in the meantime, we're going to be working on this. We're going to be looking at this. And the master plan, as you know, from the last 7 years, is they project that by 2035, we're going to have a lot more passengers, and we need to do something about it. And so their proposed plan includes 31 projects estimated to cost $15 billion. So this is the map that you'll see tomorrow, and I'll make sure you get this in your packets, but this is for the public in the packet. Most of the projects are about traffic. It's about building the new terminal, traffic, and maybe 5 projects that affect the runways and what affects Federal Way and the other residents. So that includes 19 additional gates, the terminal, high-speed taxi turnoffs, more cargo facilities, other projects. But then the big one is the runway over Steel Lake, as discovered by Dave Berger and Chris Hall of Marine Hills, is coming in too shallow, and it's probably been doing that since the 707, 747 days. It's coming in at 2.75 degrees over the neighbors there in Pack Highway. It's going to be raised like the other two runways to 3 degrees. I'm working on getting the math so we know how much it is higher once it does from our southern border to our northern border. But that's one advantage of what's going on with this project. This is the schedule that you've seen many times, but right now, this will end in under 60 days. The comments will come in. You'll be getting comments from our staff about this. We will be bringing these comments to you at the LUTC meeting in July. And then, of course, I'm sure you'll all be at the public forum on July 25th. And then they'll analyze it, they'll do a response, and then give it to the port. We'll be able to appeal it, and so maybe by December or January, February, March, we will have then our last turn in front of a jury, which is the 5 members of the Port Commission. And they're the ones that are going to make the final decision about going forward with those projects. And I think that's where we're going to have more leverage than we will in this situation. So here's the thing. With the National Environmental Protection Act piece that we worked together as a team, council and this committee, back in November, December in '24, there's been no significant challenges seen in the National Environmental Protection Act to what's going on. What they pulled was the environmental justice pieces. However, now with the port in charge of the state, SEPA, Environmental Protection Act piece, they have put those back in and have analyzed whether those pieces, including noise and particulates, are significant. And at this point, their analysis says no, because there isn't the best available science at this point. So the FAA did find 17 findings nationally, but it's mostly about traffic mitigations and things around the airport that will get taken care of. So that's going to happen. And so now we're in the SEPA process. So let me click this one more time. So for our public who are watching on TV and you folks as well, there'll be a meeting here in Federal Way. 2 years ago, they weren't going to do Federal Way, and fortunately, they decided to do it, so we thank Admiral Metric for that. There's 2 more meetings that our residents can go to. There's online, there's email, there's the website, written comments. There's a public, what's a kind of officer who shows up, and he'll take testimony there as well, too. And we will do, as we did a year and a half ago, do outreach with the citywide news. We did that today. Social media and YouTube will also make sure that there'll be some video of that public meeting that people can watch, as we did a year and a half ago, which is a good thing, so they can see all the presentations. So now what we're going to do is Brian Davis and I and another one of the planner, as they said in Indiana Jones movie, top people, we're going to be going through that document, and at the next LUTC meeting, we'll be presenting to you where we see things that need to be raised. And we will raise them as a staff. I don't think we'll need to do a letter as a council. It'll be coming to be seen as from Federal Way. But you folks will be part of what we're looking at to make sure we're finding the things that we need to do. And then, of course, once we submit that, the 60 days are over. They respond to every single comment that comes in, including ours. We'll have 60 days to analyze that. And then it'll go to the port. And as I said before, I think the port is where I think we're going to have the most leverage about what to do about particulates, what to do about noise. And so we're going to talk more about those ideas in the July 6th meeting. So based on that, those are the next steps. Any recommendations or questions? And then we'll have a really great, and I think as we're putting this together for you, we're going to send it to you in advance of agendas and staff reports, just as we find things. We're going to, like we've done towards the countdown and other situations, we're going to keep you informed of what we're finding, what we recommend. So, thank you.
Right. First,
Yep.
Councilmember Melissa.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Who lives under that runway.
That is correct. Well, thank you, Bill, for all your work on this, because this is definitely not my area of expertise, and so I appreciate all your years of looking into this. It's an important issue, and as you said, I do live under that runway. It's extremely loud when I'm inside my home to hear planes almost every 60 seconds going over. My concern is the lake. Has there been any testing to find out if the particulates are polluting the lakes?
The University of Washington has done studies that they continue to do, state-funded, that show that they exist. However, right now, they can't be parsed between the traffic on 405 I-5 adjacent to where you live, adjacent to the airport and all the airport cities, all the highways, all the trucks. However, as they increase 19 gates and all these extra flights, there's going to be a lot more traffic. And so it's not only about traffic from the air, it'll be traffic from the ground. But right now, I'll go double check. They know that the particles exist over the footprints of the 3 runways. And so let me see if the UW did look at the lake as well, too.
Well, I know that UW does test the lake for that, what was that tower in Tacoma?
For arsenic?
For
Yeah.
arsenic.
Exactly.
So if
So
they
I'll-
can test for whatever the planes are producing,
And we can recommend that.
then we
That-
have
that's-
some evidence-based
That's
arguments.
part of the secret. We could recommend RU testing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's get some
no matter-
evidence on the
No matter where
record.
the ultrafines are coming from, RU testing. So,
Yeah,
good.
well,
Thank-
try to control the variables, and let's get some good, solid evidence.
Okay, it's on the list.
Okay, and then also, there's, the noise, obviously. Another leverage angle, my property doesn't list airport noise as a nuisance. It probably should, but I'm assuming that if you have some sort of a nuisance like that, your property taxes would reflect that nuisance.
Well, when we talk on July 6th, what the FAA and the state look at still is the fact that the noise impacts to them, it's called a day-night average. And the day-night average here in Federal Way is below the threshold that was set many, many decades ago. Now, we've got a congressional delegation and other people around the country in the Congress who are trying to change that so that it becomes not an average, but incidence of noise, where if you have, I'm just throwing this out, 5 incidents, that's significance, versus the 5 incidents being averaged, and then they're of no significance. And also, the noise contour of the airport doesn't include us at this point. And we would try to, through federal legislation, have them include that. But right now, I'll show you the map next time that shows that's not even included in that DNL, the day-night average piece. But what they're trying to do in Congress is change that at some point. But when I keep mentioning the Port Commission, there could be some compassion to say, okay, well, there's what the federal government measures it and other pieces, but maybe there's some things we still need to do to do that about, particulates and the other. And then, of course, a piece of evidence is perhaps the impact on your property values.
Well, when the government starts losing money, they start listening.
That's right.
So that's why I bring it up.
That's right. So we can find out if there's any studies out about that, and it's not
Okay.
recommended. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Kochmar.
As I remember, there was some kind of a noise measuring device in at Sacagawea Junior High, checking out the decibel levels. I don't know if that's still there.
They still have the noise monitors, and that's where this daylight noise average is coming in, and it's
Okay.
coming in under that average.
Okay,
But-
and
But they're
I-
still deployed, yes.
I think in one of your previous meetings, you talked about the descent level, right now is lower, at 2 point something, and it's going to go higher, stay higher over Federal Way before it starts to lower, correct?
It'll be over the
3
Pack Highway to Steel Lake portion.
will be a little bit
And
higher.
a little bit of Marine Hills, but then runway 2 is Marine Hills, and runway 3 to the west is Marine Hills.
Yeah, they're still
But I'll
turning,
have that so you can see that illustrated.
sure, so they're still turning right over 320th and Pack Highway, making the turn coming in from California.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still the,
I've seen it, yes.
it's kind of like fighting City Hall. We're fighting with the port. The Did they change, I mean, I know that they're talking about the levels, but did they change the flight patterns so that they're either going further to the west?
No, right now, they're pretty much what they've been. But
Same.
let me double check that, I don't think that's part of the plan. They do have a piece that goes over Vashon now, and of course, they're very concerned about it. And of course, it's computer, it's the same path, so the same homes are being impacted, but then you have less problems among a whole bunch of homes, but then focused on a few homes.
Well, if they
Not a
just
few, a lot of homes.
get the hush kits put on the planes, you know, like they were supposed to years ago, I don't know.
The what kids?
They're called hush kits.
Uh-huh.
It's like a muffler.
Well, the airliners are, the newer equipment is quieter and quieter, and that's making an impact. But we still have a lot of, that could take a long time to get there. And then, of course, when the landing gear comes out and all the creaking, through START and through the airport and through the 6 cities, we've talked to them about a lot of those things, and they've tried to improve them. You know, through the START committee, there's been a lot less flights at night. Little or no use of the third runway unless there's a maintenance issue,
They
so.
still have that one at 2:30 in the morning.
They still have that one at
Going to the
2:30 in
Orient.
the morning. No, the port gives awards to people who, you know, don't have as many occurrences, but there are just the ones that come in to get that cargo off to Amazon and to UPS in the middle of the night to get it on their trucks.
I used to have a friend who lived at right around Still Lake and had her mother visiting this years ago. And the mother was shocked when the plane was coming in for a landing. And my friend said to the mother, don't worry, pretty soon you'll see the pilot in the cockpit because that's how low they're. It's just frustrating for some of our citizens, not everybody. It depends on where you live. And it depends on how many trees you have around you to absorb the noise. And it's very frustrating. And particularly since they would not give us any kind of retrofit for our windows like they did around SeaTac and Des Moines. We have nothing. They've given us nothing. They haven't given us a port office. They haven't given us anything other than say, go away. You're in
Yeah.
you're in our economic path here, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, it's
but-
because we don't fit the federal contour, but maybe we can get that contour changed
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks.
to our,
Thanks.
Council President.
Thank you. So has there been any update on the search for a new airport, or is that at a standstill?
they've got the other group, but it's more or less, they're getting together, but with the first group, there was just a resounding no to all these other locations that were considered, even though I think there was some positiveness about Moses Lake, but then you've got that whole distance and transportation piece. But I'll get you an update on where that second group is.
Okay.
So-
And the meeting on the when is the meeting?
26th?
It's
So
when we will be in.
We will be at AWC,
AWC.
which happened a year and a half ago when we had the last meeting. And as far as I know, all council members and the mayor will be at AWC.
Yeah, but I'll be there, Mike Brigado will be there, Jack Dovey will be there. They're part of our airport committee, and we're also going to invite a lot of our friends who've been talking to us on the phone, via email, and in person for years to make sure they make a show of it.
Will this could it be possible that this is on Zoom or something that we could listen to if we have the ability?
Oh, I'll talk to them about that. Yeah, because they're going to, I think that'd be great, because that'll be, you'll be in Spokane.
We will all be in
Yeah,
Spokane.
you'll be in Spokane. I was thinking DC for some reason.
No, Spokane,
It'll
so,
be prime time.
yeah. Okay,
Anything's possible these days with these little phones.
all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you for all the work you are definitely the expert here on,
And I live in Marine Hills, too.
so, all right.
So, and by the way, Lydia is very much involved with this as well, too, council member.
I
Dawson
didn't ask,
with, Highline
Lydia and
Forum.
Les, do you have any questions?
None for me.
No questions, but it would be great if we could have comments and share whatever we have. I know it's on the 27th, but we could also send in a letter or a comment if we want to. So thank you.
And Dave Kaplan will for 10 minutes tomorrow, give you sort of like the whole case that they've put together. And I've seen them do it in front of the Port of Seattle Board and in front of the Highline Forum, and so it'll be very informative tomorrow night. So,
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. All right, next, item F, PSC rate filing 2027 to 2029 and impacts on city budget. Information only, and Mr. E.J. Walsh.
Good evening, Chair, Council President, members of council. See if we can get this open. What's going on with this thing? Lydia and Les, can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Not
No,
yet.
I didn't think you could.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So good evening. Tonight, I am here to give a brief update on a PSE rate filing that PSE filed with the UTC, and also what, assuming the UTC is to pass it, what the impacts on the city budget would be. So, assuming the slide advances. So as a little bit of background, PSE has implemented several significant rate increases over the recent years. I'm sure most of us are familiar with them on a personal level. And more recently, earlier this year, they filed a rate increase plan, so a 3-year plan for increases in 27, 28, 29. So we're going to cover both of those a little bit. I do want to say that tonight's presentation, the rate increases is system-wide, so it covers all of PSE. For the purpose of tonight, though, while I certainly recognize that this will have an impact on houses and households and community members, the purpose of this and the conversation behind this presentation has been to what would the impacts on the city's budget be as it relates to the electric prices. So I absolutely understand there's impacts well beyond that, but tonight we're just focused on quantifying what those impacts to the city would be as we start to enter a budget cycle for 27 and 28. So there's probably going to be a whole bunch of questions I can't answer. That's the kind way of saying that. So as background, all regulated utilities, so that includes PSE, have rates that are broken into both tiers and schedules. So over the last several years, not all of the tiers and not all of the schedules have seen uniform increases. So the numbers that are before you on this screen, if you were to go home and look at your personal PSE bill, you may or may not see those exact numbers. They may be different by a couple percent. But what the numbers that are on front of your screen are the summary numbers, so the average of what they have filed with UTC and was approved and went into effect in both 25 and 26. And what that means is it's the total revenue collected by the utility, in this case PSE, specific to electric, they're regulated for electric and gas separately, and then what the percent increase on the total revenue collected is. That number is 12% for 2025 and 13% for 2026. That said, many residential owners in 2026 saw an increase more in line with 9%, and as a city, our increase was more like 19%. But that averaged rate based on their collected revenue was approximately 13 for 2026. And those are the numbers they filed with the UTC. And why this is important is everything for the next 3 years is based on that premise, which is also how this conversation becomes a little hard to talk about a specific household versus the city holistically. So earlier this year, as I mentioned, PSE filed a general rate case, which is a formalized thing with the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission. Going forward, the rest of this presentation, I'm going to just abbreviate that to UTC. The filing covers 3 rate increases effective January 1st in 2027, 28, and 2029. It is important to notice that while while they have filed this rate increase request, it has not to date been approved by the Utility Commission. That has to happen before they can actually implement it. So there's two parts to that comment. The first is the Utility Commission can modify it or deny it as well. If they go that route, obviously that's an impact to PSE. Second, though, is that depending on the schedule that they actually implement or approve that rate increase, January 1st, maybe this year it was more like February 1st that residents actually saw a rate increase because of the timing with the UTC. So they've requested January 1st, but that's not necessarily a done deal. So for electric, and this is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. For electric, this is the actual table that PSE's filed with the UTC. So you can see if we look at Schedule 7, which is residential, which would be the majority, 2027 would be a 16.75% increase, 3.76 January 1st of 2028, and then followed by 8.81 January 1st of 2029. For us, we as a city don't have anything that hits the residential schedule. So we have a number of our facilities that are under Schedule 7. We have a couple that are under Schedule 8. So these would be, for example, the community center falls under Schedule 7. Dumas Bay falls under Schedule 8. And that's based on, they are both commercial. It's a function of how much power they use. We're gonna have to hide these floating controls. Down at the bottom, this area and street lighting, this is pretty much everything in the right of way. And this is why we're here before you tonight. So January 1st, they're proposing a 32.11% increase on lighting and right of way. So that would include all of our traffic signals. It includes all of the street lights. It includes all the irrigation systems within the right of way. So Schedule 54 is what most of our right-of-way falls under for billing. That is followed by a 3.53% increase in 2028 and a 9% increase in 2029. There is this transportation electrification. We actually don't have anything on that schedule. That is a elective schedule that if we were to have PSE put chargers for electric vehicles in the car, that would be the rate increases for those. So we actually don't have anything on that schedule, and with this proposed rate increase, I would suggest that we should do that ourselves if we ever considered that. But you can see there's some pretty substantial increases. I'm going to spend a little bit less time, but on the gas one, they filed a similar schedule. We do have gas for the community center that runs the boilers. That is the primary location that we have natural gas service within the city. Those rate increases are frankly much more manageable from a budget perspective, but they're still significant. So one of the
Back on the gas, which one would be the?
So the community center hits title, or I keep saying title, it's Schedule 31. So they're at this one.
Okay.
But the gas is only used for I believe it's the pool heaters. So it's not the heat for the entire facility. Most of it is running off electric. So the gas bill is a much smaller in comparison to the electric bill.
Is that on all the time? Is it heating the pools all the time?
No, it's not. So the gas bill, I don't have the exact number off the top of my tongue, but the gas bill is a fraction of the electric bill. So it's still a marked increase, and to be clear, but it's not, in comparison, it's a significantly less dollars. So the rate driver, so as part of this filing, they do have to disclose, what's driving this cost, why do they need this, and, et cetera. So the things that they have filed is on the screen in front of you. So maintaining and modernizing critical infrastructure. So this is switches and transfer gear and the primary service. They do have some requirements under some of the state laws that were passed recently to harden infrastructure against severe weather and wildfire risk. And this is specifically out of what happened in California with their power lines causing one of the largest wildfires in California's history. Washington passed some laws that all electric utility companies need to be a little bit more proactive with that. The big one, and we have a couple more slides on this, is investment in clean infrastructure as well as capacity resources. And those two are, we'll get into in more detail in a second. But these are the major rate drivers that were disclosed. So to belt and suspender the conversation a little bit, in 2019, the legislature passed this Clean Energy Transformation Act. And this is where the last two bullets on the previous slide come into play. So in 2019, the legislature said by 2030, PSE specifically, 2030 by 2033 for all electric utilities, must have 80% of the electricity being generated from renewable or non-emitting resources. Effectively, that means no coal, natural gas, or petroleum gas-fired power plants. So that statement has a cost associated with it. In addition to that, every 4 years, the target number increases. So for in 2034, that 80% becomes, I think it's 85%, and then in 2038 becomes 90%, until 100% renewable or non-emitting sources are reached. PSE did a bunch of brainstorming and engineering work to try and figure out how to accomplish that, and what they came up with was they need to build 11 new utility-scale renewable energy projects. This is a combination of wind and solar. These are occurring mostly in eastern Washington, but in Montana as well, and then that power is effectively being transported via transmission line back to Washington State. As part of that, they are also increasing off-peak storage capacity. What that really means is batteries. So, effectively they can collect wind energy during the middle of the night, but there's no user, so it gets stored in a battery, and then it can be expended during the day during peak times. That does meet the requirements for non-emitting. That has been a source of debate in Washington State, whether large-scale batteries are truly non-emitting or not, considering the manufacturing that goes into them. But as far as the current regulations go, battery storage for renewable resources is classified as non-emitting. Lastly, the clean energy, so PSE can only expand their energy generation by conforming with the clean energy. And this is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because as the state has pushed electrification of the transportation network, aka EV cars, the demand for electricity to charge the cars has increased. So that's a self-propelling, prophecy there of, as we need more electric, we have to build more projects. To build more projects, they have to be green. Those have a cost. So this is something that was passed by the legislature in 2019, and they have to comply with it. So impacts to the city and the why we're here tonight, that's the background portion of this. So the good news is when PSE raises the rates, we do collect additional utility tax. We do see our utility tax is a percentage of the revenue that PSE collects. The bad news is, as you saw from that schedule, there's some pretty high percent increases. So everything from this point forward is projections either Director Groom or myself have put together based on 25 and 26 data. So I do want to, with giant asterisks, disclaim that it's all based on where we have been in 25 and 26 and what PSE has submitted to the UTC. If any of those conversations come into play with changing the rates and or timing, that will have an obvious impact on the rates and the numbers that you're about to see on the following slides. So on the revenue side, in 2026, we are projected, so to back up one step, the utility tax is broken into two components. 6% of the portion goes to the general fund. 1.5% of it goes to Prop 1 for a total of 7.5. Everything you're going to see tonight is limited to the 6% portion for the general fund. Everything from Prop 1 has been removed. So Prop 1 funding cannot be used for general fund obligations. So that there is additional Prop 1 money that comes in as a function of this, but that is not part of this. So that 6% portion, in 2026, we are projected to collect a little over $3.3 million. Annual increase in collected revenue in 2027 would be an additional 512. 2028 would be an additional, so that would get you to call it 3.8 for round numbers. 2028 would be an additional 143, which would get you to arguably, let's call it 4 million. 2029 would be an additional 350, so let's call it 4.3 million in total in 2029. On the expense side, so streetlights and traffic signal costs. So this is broken down by those schedules that we talked about earlier. So in 2025, our budget was 820,000, a little over that, and our actual incurred cost was about 723,000. Our budget for 2026 is 854,000, and our projected cost as of current is 817,000. So we're just a hair under budget. Obviously, there is no budget for 27 or 28 yet. However, using that same 854 number, if we were just to draw a line in the sand and hold a constant for right now, our projected cost is projected to be a little under 1.1 million to run the same lights that we ran for 816,000 in 2026. And you can see it continues to increase year over year. Our second largest user of electricity, which we mentioned before, is the community center. So the community center's budget is 180,000. There was no change in that between the 2 years. In 2025, we actually spent a little over 224,000. So we were, call it 40,000 over budget. 2026, again, our budget is 180. We are projected to be at $253,000. So we are projected to be about 70,000 over just for electric based on the rate increases. 2027, get off easier here than with streetlights, but we're projected to be at 288,000. Everything else. So for the sake of conversation, we rolled Dumas Bay, the PAC, the irrigation systems in the parks, the lights in the parks, everything else is in this slide. So for everything else, we paid PSC for electric. Our budgets for 25-26 were also constant at 504,000. Our projected cost for 2026 is about 720,000 for just electric. You can see these numbers also increase pretty substantially. So if we were to, and again, obviously there's no 27 budget yet, but if we were to remain constant at 504,000, we'd be a little over 300,000 over budget in 2027. Whoa. I want 2 slides. So budget comparison, which, I mean, this is the slides I'm sure council's the most interested in, is, you know, how does all these many numbers work out? So our total budget for 2026 is a little over 1.5 million across all funds citywide. We are projected to have an actual incurred cost of a little under 1.8 million. So we're projected to be for 2026 about in total for all funds be about 260,000 over for electric. There's a significant jump for that next year to almost $660,000 over our current 2026 budget. And like I keep saying, I do recognize there is no 2027 budget yet. So we're using the 2026 for the purpose of conversation and just assuming it's constant to be able to have this conversation. You can see each year that number increases. So how does all of this math actually compare? And so this is one slide that has both that revenue numbers we were talking about before as well as the expenses. So our projected costs, which were on the last slide, are this first column that you're seeing. Our 2026 numbers at 1.79 million. In 2029, we're expecting to be paying about 2.5 million in electric. Comparison to so if our budget were to remain constant for the 2026 amount in 2027, we would be 261,000 over 658,000 over in 2027. Going back to that good news of we do get additional revenue. The assumption is, at least for the sake of this conversation, we took 100% of that increase. So 100% of the additional revenue that comes in and use it to offset the cost of the streetlights and electric for the community center and the PAC and everything else, just offsetting the electric bills citywide. The additional revenue is about $512,000, and our projected increase in cost is $658. So we are $145,000 short additional revenue to additional expense. In 2028, and a lot of this is driven by that 32% increase in the streetlights and traffic signals. So in 2028, we're in a slightly better position. So we are still projected to be $83,000 short, taking all of the additional revenue. And then in 2029 is kind of where the line in the sand comes that, we get over that line, get over that hump. So in 2029, we're actually projected to have a surplus of approximately $60,000 to the positive, meaning that we are collecting more revenue than our increase in costs. The last thing I'll say on that, so the 6% existing collected tax currently pays for more than just electricity. So the existing fund distribution for that as part of this conversation is not projected to be changed. So this is literally just taking the additional revenue generated by the fact that PSC raised the rates and using that to offset the electric bills that are increased. It is not reallocating underlying money that's already being allocated somewhere else in the fund. And I'm sure that is not the most straightforward way to explain it, but with that, I am happy to attempt to answer questions. And attempt is the key word there.
All right, Councilmember Kochmar.
Well, I realize we're, sorry about that, we're talking about the budget, but have you received any information on average household budget, how it's going to affect the average household?
So PSC did put a couple of rate studies in their submission to the UTC. So yes, I have seen those, but I don't have that. As I mentioned, this is focused on the city. I think there's a thought that there would be a follow-up meeting at a later council meeting in June to cover a little bit more of what you were asking about.
I'm sure people are going to be wondering, I had heard at one point it was going to be a 60% increase in your electric gas rate.
So they applied for 30% across the 3 years.
So that would affect the average household as an increase of 30%, not 60%.
Correct, over three, so 30%.
Over
So it's
30,
it's that breakdown that you saw, so it's, I can pull it back up, but
Right,
it's.
right now, we have a lot of people that have really high electric gas payments.
Correct.
So I'm pretty sure people are going to be asking about that.
Yeah, so I fully agree with you. What they filed would be, people would see 16 3/4 in 2027, and then a follow-on 3.7 and a follow-on 8.8. The way that the math works with that, because you're taking 3.3% of an increased rate from 2027, your compounded rate at the end of 3 years becomes 30. If you add them up, you'll get to like roughly 28. But that compounded rate is what gets you to the.
Is that including gas as well or just electric?
No, this is the electric table. The gas table would be 13.3% increase in 2027.
So okay. So the compounded over 3 years, it'd be how much for gas?
The compounded, I believe, is like 19 or 20 for gas.
Wow, so, yeah, so you're really talking almost 50% for over a 3-year period, if you include.
Yeah,
electric.
I'm not sure you can just flat out add the two together without looking at that in a little more detail.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah, I don't think they add in that sense. I mean, it is definitely a marked increase on both accounts.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can just add the two together, though.
Okay, but we should have some answers for folks when they,
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, a lot of the answers, unfortunately, are going to be, here's the contact information for PSC.
for PSC, I know, yeah.
But yes, I agree with you. I mean, a lot of this is not, we can't explain it for them.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Right, Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. Can you go back to the rate driver slide, please?
And Chair, Councilmember Sessoms does have his hand up when we get to that.
Okay.
You type, whoops.
Yep. That's the only information PSC gave you for the rate driver? I'm assuming the source of that information I'm looking at right here is from PSC?
It's from the UTCI filing, yes. Their filing is a small book, so this is the,
So these rate drivers here, the source of that information is the UTC or PSC?
it is from PSC of what they filed with the UTC. So
Okay.
it is the document that they submitted, yes.
Okay.
And this is
Well-
in their executive summary.
I'm asking because in January, people have noticed that their electric bills are going very high long before now.
Yep.
And in January, the Federal Way Mirror reported, and I'll read this, PSC asked the UTC to recover costs related to its actions to, bullet point, comply with the Climate Commitment Act. Bullet point number 2, expand clean energy provided to customers. Bullet point number 3, pay for investments to increase reliability and safety for customers. Bullet point number 4, address low-income bill assistance costs. So I'm not seeing the comply with the Climate Commitment Act on this rate driver. Do you think that's a rate driver?
I do. So that is this investment in clean infrastructure, and then the second slide is the formal name of that is the Clean Energy Transformation Act, which is more commonly known by the title that you are citing.
So they just renamed it.
This is what is on your screen is the official name. What is in the Federal Mirror is kind of the name that it was debated under in the legislature.
Yeah, I think the public recognizes it by the Climate Commitment Act.
They are one and the same.
Thank you.
Right, Council President.
Thank you. Thanks for this information. It's a little upsetting, but costs are going up everywhere for everything. So we're going to have to find some money or make some cuts, probably. In May, I got 2 text messages from Puget Sound Energy, and it talks about a peak time savings where they were encouraging us not to use electricity during a certain time, like they do down in Arizona and some other states.
Correct.
And then they said, they sent another text message out saying, watch for this program to start this summer. No action is needed today. Will that be impacting our rates too? That during the peak time where they're going to charge more for energy?
So the text you're referencing is a slightly different program. So PSC is rolling out, and they have rolled out in some locations, a program that if you have a smart thermostat, so specifically they are working with Nest thermostats, there is a way you can effectively give them control of your thermostat. So during peak times when energy demand is high, they can actually go into your thermostat and raise the temperature if you have air conditioning, or decrease it in the winter if you have heat. So if you have your thermostat set to 70 because it's hot and you want the air conditioning on, they can actually go in and say, hey, during peak time, because of the energy demand, we're actually going to bump your temperature to 74, 75. And then when the energy demand comes back down into a certain window, it can go back to what you have it set at. During that time, your thermostat's locked, so you cannot go and, you push as many buttons as you want, but it's not going to change the thermostat.
How do you know if you're in the program?
Because you're getting a credit on your bill.
We'll have to
So
look at
as part of that, you get a monthly credit for agreeing to have that. They do the same thing with EV chargers. So if you're willing to allow them to control your EV charger in your garage, that will only charge during the middle of the night, and it'll more or less be shut off and ineffective during the day, you can get a credit for that as well. But it's all based on that peak time. So that's the text message that you're referring to, was like it's a type of what's called load management. So it's
Yeah.
trying to optimize the network to shift some of the load away from the peak times when people want it.
But that won't impact the city at all. We don't have any of those thermostats in our buildings.
We don't have a way to use that now.
Okay,
No, and those are both residential programs, not commercial programs, to be clear.
okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Sessoms.
So, first of all, thank you for this report. I feel a little peeved by what I know about PSC. I am a customer. I do drive an EV. My rates have gone up. Those are all facts. But what I didn't know until now, according to the SEC, PSC reported a net income of approximately $346.1 million in 2024. And you compare that with what they made in 2023, which was only $131 million. Your slide about rate drivers seems a little bit off. And it's upsetting because they're making more money by charging us more money. And as a consumer, that's pretty upsetting, especially when I read about the bonuses that they pay their top 4 executives. For instance, just the CEO alone had a bonus paid out of $1.48 million. And that really is disturbing when you're thinking about all of our community residents suffering rate increases, thinking that they're going to stay warm in the winter and not have to be concerned about that. But yet, if they can't afford to pay their utility bill, they're going to be they're going to suffer in the cold. So one of my questions is, and I'll just ask this one, but do we have any strategy in place to offset our electric bill, particularly at the community center? Do we have solar panels on the roof or even at the PAC? So we can maybe recoup some of these costs.
So a couple of questions that I heard in there, and one, to be clear, please don't take my presentation as trying to defend PSE.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm just trying to present what's been shared with us. That way council has the full picture going into the budget later this year. But certainly I hear your points as far as executive pay and the compensation, and I'm not sure I have a response to any of that because that's a little bit beyond my staff role here. Your second question related to offsetting electrical costs, and I think you kind of asked it in the 2 different contexts. In the first, PSE does have multiple both low-income and senior programs that residents can sign up that have various rate deductions based on a number of factors, primarily driven by income. But there are multiple different programs out there that are meant to address rates and to help stabilize rates and rate increases. They also locally fund a program through MSC that is something similar. On the city's side, we do have a utility tax credit program for specifically seniors that they're eligible to apply for. We have seen very, very few participants in that program, and to be clear, we are only allowed to offset what we collect in utility tax. We can't pay their electric bill for them, and it does have a paperwork burden associated with it. So that's, I think, your second question. Your third question, do we have solar panels on the PAC or the community center? The answer is no. We as a city do not have solar panels at any of our facilities at this time. The PAC and the new maintenance center were both provisioned with conduit to allow for the future construction of solar on both of those facilities. We have looked at it in the context of the PAC historically, and frankly, the repayment doesn't really pencil. You can't generate enough power there on our size scale that makes it financially make the math work. So, I mean, any sort of project that pursues solar on a city-sized facility would be really driven more by policy about the city wants to be green and generate green energy, not a financial conversation.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sefadossin.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, EJ. I do have a solar panel, and I think it's been very helpful. My electric bill is lower, very low, but my gas bill is really high, and I only use it for the water heater and something else. The furnace. So I'm surprised it's as high as it is now, and the increase is really going to be horrible once it happens. I know part of your bullet was the low-income assistance, which they're doing a great job. But my concern also is as the rate goes up, they're not going to help them as much, I don't think. And so that's going to devastate a lot of our residents. So how do we make sure if they don't get what they want from the FTC, if they don't get it approved, then that bullet or the assistance for low-income population is probably going to either go away. I'm just wondering if that's one of the first things they're going to do away as part of their service delivery, which they may not be required to do or serve the low-income population. So that's a big concern of mine, which also puts a burden on our city because they're the people who are going to come and need assistance and ask for help because electricity is very essential to all of us.
Sure.
So are we going to have to start thinking creatively on how to support, or do we have any say in Puget Sound Energy's decision to increase the rates at the rate that they're going to increase?
So I would say our options are very limited. We can put something in writing to the UTC, but ultimately, no, that's a regional conversation, and it's largely being driven by compliance. I don't, and I'm hesitant to try and speak on behalf of anyone there. I am not aware of anything that would let them separate out the different things and fund one thing but not the other. They applied to the UTC as one package, and I think UTC certainly has the power to modify it slightly, but I don't think they can wholesale kind of make the type of changes that are being suggested. I think that would be a much larger conversation. There are different requirements in the WAC, but there are requirements in the WAC that all electric utility providers are required to have some semblance of rate stabilization for at-risk populations. So I think what is being proposed would effectively, it might save them a couple dollars in the short run, but probably make them be out of compliance with other regulations. So I personally don't see that as a lever that they can really pull. I think that they can certainly redistribute some of the funding a little bit, but I don't think that there's a significant thing there. But ultimately, as I said, that's not our decision necessarily to make. So it's really between PSC and UTC. So I can't definitively answer it. As far as what do we do, that's going to be a hard conversation if that's something the council wants to pursue in 2027. I mean, frankly, we're showing a significant need just to keep the same things that we have in 2026, even with all the additional utility tax. We need to find We need to find a couple dollars just to offset our increasing cost to maintain the same level of service that we've been providing to the community. So I mean, anything, you know, my gut is that the baseline policy is we can't decrease services based on a rate increase. I mean, when we're talking about it in very concrete terms would be like turning streetlights off or shuttering the community center for a couple hours a day. And I don't see that being an acceptable answer on either front. So I think, you know, we have to find that money first. So I think, you know, in that vein, trying to find even more money to offset something else when PSC already has required programs, my gut is that our direction to people that reach out is to contact PSC and apply through the programs that already exist versus the city trying to stand up another program. But ultimately, that will be a policy level conversation during the budget process, and if that's the priority of council, then I guess it can be a conversation. But somehow those two have to balance, and there's not additional revenue coming out of this to offset any sort of new program.
All right, thank you. Does that, any other questions?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, Councilmember Hamilton.
So, EJ, we recently stated a position on the Sound Transit extension.
Yep.
And it was just basically a letter stating our position. Would we be able, and maybe this is a question for our city attorney, would we be able to send a letter of support or opposition or resolution or something like that to state our position as a city on what PSC is asking for, not only for the, you know, in interest of what the city's costs will incur, but also for the interests of what our citizens are going to be facing.
Yes, and that's what I was referencing is we could comment to the UTC. So we could do that in
I
the
think we
form
should
of a letter.
really
Yeah.
look into that so that we at least have a position on this issue, because the cost of energy is getting out of control. And whether it's the rate drivers that they've listed, and I think there's some merit to the rate drivers, or it's, you know, bloating their paychecks, whatever it is, the people are suffering. And I think we need to make some sort of statement and, you know, to what they're asking.
Yeah, so I think the expectation is this is going to be in some way, shape, or form on the second meeting in June's full council meeting. And I think my belief is that will probably be one of the outcomes is exactly what you just proposed, assuming that counts. That's the will of council, obviously, and the mayor is to send a letter to the UTC as part of that process. But that's kind of where I can personally see this going. But I mean, ultimately, that's your decision to make, not mine.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that, you know, it's been mentioned that, you know, the silver lining is that we'll get more taxes. It's a silver lining in one way, but those taxes come from the people.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's what I think of as a representative of the people.
Yeah.
So,
I
Thank you.
suspect it's the general feeling of the council that the letter should be sent. So, Councilmember Sefadossin.
Yeah, I was also thinking this could be something either SCA or AWC could do a collective voice and send a letter to
UTC.
to the FTC and see if they would consider our position on this. So that would give us a louder voice if it's done like that.
Okay. Councilmember Sessoms?
EJ, do you know if, what our rates are in comparison to, say, the public utility districts of Tacoma or Seattle? Are they comparable? Are they getting rate increases? I would assume not, but what do you know about that?
So
And
those,
those are also public entities, so,
They are.
you know, it'd be interesting to see a comparison
Yeah.
versus a profit, for-profit company like PSC.
Sure. So those two specifically, I don't off the top of my head. What I do know is the PSC rates are fairly comparable to the other utility providers of electric statewide. And PSC is the one providing power to both of those utilities. So some of the other rates that you saw for the pass-through generation rates, the city of Seattle and city of Tacoma are going to, on the generation side, they're going to be seeing those same rate increases. Because neither Tacoma nor Seattle actually own a power plant that generates the power. They both rely on PSE, but as well as actually, frankly, several other power generation sources, which are, so the rate increase on the generation side and the new infrastructure that's needed to support that is getting shared amongst everyone. So I'm not aware of either of the two of them filing rate increases specifically. But when we did a very high-level comparison of PSE versus the other macro-level utility providers of electric, all of the rates are in Washington are fairly comparable. It does drastically decrease when you go to Oregon or Idaho.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, EJ.
Thank you.
Well, I think that you stay up there now.
I don't think I do.
So, all right, item G, panhandling signs. And this is something that I know that a number of years ago that it was reviewed by the city and former council member Monica Hopeng was advocating it. And then just a couple of years ago, I was considering it and didn't really take it anywhere. And then Martin Moore wanted to bring it up again, and I'm still somewhat interested. I'm surprised that Martin isn't here with us this evening, because he was the main driver to put it on the agenda now. Could you enlighten us a little bit on the background? I know that the mayor is not in favor of this,
Correct.
and can you share just briefly?
Sure. So as you mentioned, this has been before the body twice. So approximately 2016, 2017 timeframe. It came before the council at the time by a combination of Tim Johnson, Marwan, the former public works director, and myself. At that time, there was a bunch of research done onto what other cities had done on the same topic, as well as the success of those programs in other cities, as well as some of the challenges they saw with it. After that was done, the recommendation from the mentioned staff as well as the mayor was to not pursue it any further, and that's where it stopped. In roughly 2020, as you mentioned, it came up a second time. At that point, it was assigned to Policy Advisor Bill Vadino. There was a little bit of additional research that was done at that point in time, and basically that involved updating the previous research and making sure that none of the cities that we had talked to previously had some substantial amount of change. At that point in time, the mayor was very strongly opposed to it, as was the involved staff in 2020. As basically it was shown by the other cities to be not effective program nor an effective use of city resources. So at that point in time, the city council declined to do anything further. So at this point, no work has been done on this, and it was asked to be added to the agenda for discussion by the council members.
Okay. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I do remember Councilmember Moore bringing this up and wanting it on the agenda, so he's not here, so I'm not sure what his position is, but I'll just state my position, because maybe we don't need to even discuss it at all if the votes aren't there. What we're talking about is installing signage in the city trying to discourage panhandling. So the signage would say something like, keep the change, donate to a charity. That would be an example of what the signage would say. The rule right now is that peaceful panhandling is protected speech. Now, that has been upheld by the federal courts over and over again, and even by the U.S. Supreme Court. I believe it was Reed versus Town of Gilbert. And furthermore, the First Amendment says that sidewalks are among protected places where people can assemble and hold signs. In fact, I think most of us have been on the sidewalk ourselves holding signs. So there's that. The signage that would be proposed, so the signage is not addressing any illegal conduct. It's addressing the message, which is usually, help me, I need money. Now, I don't personally like to give to panhandlers because I don't know where that money goes once it leaves my wallet. I would rather give to a charity, but we can't, my position is we should not be discouraging free speech. And I do think that we do have laws in place that we can enforce if there's aggressive panhandling, because that's not allowed, or if there's a safety issue. I myself have seen panhandlers in the middle of the road where they're almost getting hit by cars. And if in that situation, police can go out there and say, hey, can you move to a more safe place? You can do what you're doing, but you've got to move to a safe place because we don't want you to get hit by a car. So there's that. So just on principle, I'll just make my position known that I would not support it, only because of the precedent set by the courts on this issue. And I do think that putting up signs would be performative at best. I'm not sure it would actually discourage anybody from panhandling, and I'm just not a fan of performative policy. Thank you.
Let me make a comment, then we'll get to Councilmember Dawson. You know, I'm somewhat supportive of the idea, you know, recognizing that panhandling is completely, I mean, it's free speech. And so this would not be banning or outline panhandling in any way. It'd be simply suggesting to those who want to give to panhandlers that rather than giving to the panhandler, that they donate to a charity. And so what I envisioned was a sign saying, you know, basically, please don't give to panhandlers if you want to help, and then have a QR code that they can, that would direct them to charities like MSC, Catholic Community Services, Federal Way Caregivers Network, other charities that are actually on the ground helping people. And so that's what I envision. You know, I don't see a downside of it as far as anything going against free speech, because I'm a big proponent of free speech as well. As I see it, the biggest downside is that we put up the signs and they disappear, and then we end up having to put them up again, just the cost of maintaining it. That's really the only downside that I see. But it is a significant downside. But anyway, going on to Councilmember Sefa Dawson. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Chair. Last time Martin spoke to me about this, I feel like he may have changed his mind, but I don't know, so I can't speak to that. But I just want to share my stand, where I stand on this. And you two have mentioned, touched on what I was thinking. One is, of course, speech, people's rights to be there. And secondly, I do totally agree with and have stated this before that, counts when there's political races that happens. People are sign waving and putting signs out. So I think it becomes a little tricky as to who you allow and who you don't allow to have signs out on the street. In terms of the signage, it makes it, okay, let me start by saying, actually, I don't even know what problem we're trying to solve. So with that premise, also, I would say, I personally always taught my kids to be generous. So they would have been at a young age, they were always willing to give to people who are panhandling. And to me, my $1 may go further for them than me trying to give multi-service center $20. The assumption here is that the agency that goes on the QR code has the capacity, has the staffing, has the financial means to really support people who are going to be on the street panhandling, which also assumes that the people there have the transportation, the means to go to these nonprofits for service. And how often can they go? We all know that nonprofits do not have that kind of capacity or funding to help people who are on the streets and who are in need. And so I don't know if these assumptions or these things have been addressed with the nonprofits before we even do the QR code. I'm surprised because it requires me to slow down, to take a picture of the QR code there and try to pay or donate, which I don't believe a lot of people are going to do because of all the effort it takes to do this. So again, I will go back to asking the question, what problem are we trying to solve? And then how, if this moves forward, then I really would like to hear our relationship or our conversation with those nonprofits who we are expecting to increase their service delivery to the people. And also, I don't know if the people who do panhandle already go for service to these agencies. I don't know because we don't have that kind of data. So I believe if this moves forward, there's more work for us to do in order to even consider, because it has to be data driven, that this is the right way to do it. Again, bar none that it crosses the line of legality and questions the fact that people do have the right to be there. And so I don't think we should impose anything on panhandlers in terms of taking away their rights. Thank you.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Councilmember Sefadasan, for sharing that. And another thing that I just thought of was, a lot of times people associate panhandling with homelessness, but I have a sort of a neighbor, not an immediate neighbor, but he lives down the street from me. He panhandles every day. He's not homeless, because I've seen him walk into his house. We are also in an affordability crisis here in this state, and I expect to see maybe an increase in panhandling because people are just trying to make ends meet. I would like to put our efforts towards addressing affordability rather than panhandling, and I just wanted to point that out, that some panhandlers are homeless, some of them are addicted to drugs, but some of them are truly probably just trying to make ends meet and in a affordability crisis situation that we're in Washington State.
Do we have comments from any other, just trying to get a little bit of a consensus on whether there's...
No, we've talked about this
Okay.
before.
Okay.
Multiple times, and I don't see the real benefit to it. People know that they can donate to charities.
Council President?
The mayor did tell me that I could tell council that he does not support this, as he
Right.
hasn't
That's
in the past.
understood.
And I did not support it in the past. I don't see that it would change. I don't see that the person needing the help would necessarily get the help. And I don't know that between putting the signs up and paying for them and replacing them when they were defaced or whatever, because that happened in Lakewood. That's what we heard last time. I just don't think it's a good use of our funding right now. And we just heard that our electrical costs are going to go up, and we have other fees going up, so I don't think that this is the time to do this.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't believe that there are 4 votes to do this anyway.
It certainly doesn't sound like it. Councilmember Sessoms, any comments from you?
No, I don't have any. Thank
Okay,
you.
All So I think that I need to agree with Council President Honda that there wouldn't be the 4 votes to proceed with it anyway. So, anyway, I'd say that can end the discussion for now. Thank you very much, EJ. We appreciate it. I don't believe there's any other business to bring before the committee. Our next LUTC meeting will be July 6th at 5 o'clock right here. And with that, we are adjourned.